I think we as marketers have a tendency to be really excited about specific concepts or specific ideas. We need to step back and constantly remember that it's not about what we're excited about. Our job is to listen to our customers and really understand what their needs are.
So welcome to the AFT Construction Podcast. We have Casey Smyth. He's back. So welcome back, Casey.
Thank you, Brad. It's good to be back. Appreciate you having me again.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on again. Casey is the brand manager of LP Structural Solutions products. And as you know, we're a big fan of LP. We use your products in our builds. We've been open about that. We did the National Home of the Year for Pro Builder, Desert Comfort with Mark La Liberté. And of course, he's a big proponent of the LP product, and Kyle Stumpenhorst, who's been on, a couple times, he and I are big fans. And so I appreciate making time today, Casey.
Of course, you're a great partner of ours, and we love working with you as well. So thanks for having me.
Well, it's fun to get the partners on. On occasion, I get to do that with some of the brands, that we're working with. And, one thing that's really important for us is we see that our brands are taking a lot of initiative. Especially to make our lives easier, more efficient, protecting us as builders, which, we're dealing with a ton of risk. That's just part of building. That's part of life. Since you were on in November, what's new, Casey?
Oh man, I think on a personal level, last time we talked, I think I was like a week away from going on a trip to Patagonia,
Mm-hmm.
which was absolutely incredible.
How long were you down there?
We were there for 10 days. So I got to go with my dad and my brothers. And it was just, I mean, the natural beauty is unbelievable. Really, really special place, and really great just to spend time with the family down there as well. So that's
What was
new
your
on a
favorite thing? Like Patagonia for those, walk through where that's at. I know where it's at because I've been to
yeah.
Argentina, but walk through for those that don't know anything about the Patagonia.
So Patagonia is about as far south as you can go in South America. And it straddles Argentina and Chile. We were on the Chilean side. Um, but it's a huge natural reserve, just stunning natural beauty, very dramatic, mountain peaks and crystal clear alpine lakes, glaciers, tons of really good outdoor activities. So hiking, biking, a little bit of kayaking, fly fishing. So it's an outdoorsman's paradise, and we try as a family to get out and do something kind of active once a year. So it was perfect. It scratched the itch big time, and I couldn't recommend it enough.
It's interesting. Not to divert too much, but one of the reasons I love traveling, well, one, I mean, you get to expose, like you were down in Chile, you get to expose, different cultures, different cuisine, different people, which is awesome. I love seeing, other parts of the world, how they live,
Yeah,
geology. I mean, just, how everything looks is totally different from what we may be accustomed to in the US. And then, it's inspiring, for me as a builder. I go to other places, architecture. I love going to Europe, and seeing the construction, I'm like, I don't, it's just amazing, some of the stuff that you just see constructed and built, and
definitely.
especially the challenges you and I have on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely. It is interesting. I mean, so much of the world, so many of the challenges are the same. But then each place has its own, unique challenges. And we even see that in the US, depending on what your geography is in the US. There are different pockets that have their own unique challenges, whether that's moisture, whether that's wildfires, whether that's, hurricane winds and so forth. But you certainly learn a lot being exposed to the way other places do things.
So, outside of Patagonia, especially with the brand, and you kind of touched on this, what's really challenging for you as a supplier for us builders is, you're dealing with me who's in Scottsdale, Phoenix, really dry and hot climate. I mean, as you mentioned, just in the US, there's so many different weather patterns, building conditions. And, so what's new with some of the LP products since last time we spoke?
Yeah, so I think really the thing I'm most excited about is last time I was on the show, we talked a little bit about our solutions offering, our solutions pillars. And just as kind of a refresher, we basically, our solutions pillars are kind of how we address pain points and challenges that our builders are experiencing. Um, we kind of compartmentalize those pillars into five different distinct pillars. So there's our resiliency solutions, there's our efficiency solutions, our sustainability solutions, our aesthetic solutions, and then our business solutions. Um, so that's kind of the lens through which we view the world, and major happenings in our company tend to fall within those kind of buckets. So the biggest one that I'm super excited about since we last talked about is we've conducted a life cycle assessment on our structural solutions family of products. And our life cycle assessment has determined that our structural solutions products are carbon negative. So that kind of fits squarely within our sustainability offering within our solutions pillar. And it's all part of our mission to be good environmental stewards, to kind of help build a better world. So I'm really excited about that and what that means for our company, and how um, the impact that will have on builders, as more and more builders become conscious to the environmental challenges that we face, and how we can each make a difference in the environment.
And I don't know how much this pertains to your role, Casey, with the company, but I've always found it interesting. A lot of the vendors that we're working with, some of our suppliers, they're really conscious about the environment, the products that we're putting in, health of the end user, and it's not just a legal thing, right? I mean, it's one angle to say, we want to avoid, any legal backslash. None of us want it where we have to be dictated in all things, right? Like by our government to like force us to like go live this certain way. So there's like an
Sure,
ethos of certain brands that are just like, hey, I want to be different. Like I want to go above and beyond. I want to be resourceful. I want to be, less of a carbon footprint.
sure,
Um, and I've always thought that methodology is interesting because I've met other builders and design. I mean, I've had other designers and builders on this podcast that um, are definitely pushing um, building homes that are better, right? Because what's really tough for us as a builder, and this is how it relates to you, Casey, is that as a builder, the question I get all the time from clients is, what's your square foot price? What does it cost to build? Because they're calling a ton of builders trying to figure out, okay, are we worth the investment? Is another builder? And it's really hard to explain to somebody by just building costs what makes you different. It's one thing that you can sell. Here's my systems. Here's how we build. Here's our organization. Here's our communication. Here's our platform. Here's our project management. Here's our hierarchy of people and how we run the job. That's one aspect. But the building itself, the quality, the materials, the efficiencies, right? The carbon footprint you're mentioning, it's really hard for most buyers to really understand them, because at the end of the day, they're looking at a price. And for a manufacturer, I'd imagine it's similar. You're in a highly competitive market. You're competing against other brands. And so to go to another level, such as carbon negative, um, in some ways, yes, it aligns probably with the ethos of the company and the mentality there. But at the same time, you still have, I don't want to say bored, but you're still trying to figure out overhead and cost and material and,
sure.
all the things you're trying to deal with, same as I am.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you're right. At the end of the day, um, cost is a consistent focus point for our builder customers and for the homeowners that our builder customers are talking to. Um, we tend to think that raw material cost is only a part of the picture. Um, so I preside over a portfolio of premium structural solutions. And premium, oftentimes comes with an increased price tag for the materials themselves. But that's only part of the picture. When you start to factor in that a lot of our structural solutions materials are designed to cut out labor or cut out other materials from an assembly, or ultimately create energy savings for a homeowner further down the line, that initial cost is only a small part of the equation. So I think we're able to effectively speak to those concerns, and effectively speak to those desires for cost efficiency. It's just, you have to look at the whole picture, and you have to factor in, those other factors that I mentioned. Um, but I think, outside of cost, we want to make a difference and we want to help builders build better and we want to help homeowners live in more sustainable, more resilient, better protected homes. So, all else being equal, at the end of the day, uh, we view sustainability as a major differentiator for us. If on a cost basis, when you factor in all those other components, the materials you're able to cut out from assemblies and labor savings and ultimately energy savings, if that can get builders and homeowners to where they want to be, there are all these other, I would say, feathers in the hat that builders can provide. And we see more and more homeowners are becoming in tune to the increasing threats that they're seeing from a climate perspective, and the need for resilient solutions. And the other big trend that we see more and more is the need and desire for sustainable solutions. I think as you look at, and the two are, I think, very connected. As you look at this alarming increase that we're seeing in some of these climate disasters, that of course speaks to the need for more resilient solutions, more resilient homes. So homeowners, their families, their structures are better protected. But at the same time, it's hard to ignore what's going on there from an environmental perspective. And when you're in tune to what's going on there from an environmental perspective, I think that really lends to homeowners who want to be a part of the solution and builders who want to be a part of the solution to have sustainable products on their homes.
So maybe walk through carbon negative. The reason I ask that is because, that's a term that you and I are familiar with. How it relates to building. What does that mean for anyone listening that may not understand essentially what that is?
Yeah, so since we last talked, we conducted a life cycle assessment on our structural solutions products, and that life cycle
I can't
assessment.
connect to your Wi-Fi network.
Sorry,
You can find
Oh, you're
setup
good.
Alexa thinks that she's
Good,
right.
good old Alexa.
Um, so as part of this life cycle assessment, um, basically what that does, it's a summary of our environmental impact. And through um, this summary of our environmental impact, we create environmental product declaration reports. And these reports basically summarize the results of this life cycle assessment. So through this life cycle assessment, we learned that all of our structural solutions products are carbon negative, with the exception of NovaCore. And NovaCore is the exception simply because we were not able to test it. It was too new, and we didn't have enough data yet on its carbon impact to be able to include it in the analysis. But we will be running that analysis in the near future, and we suspect that that's going to reveal carbon negativity as well.
So,
But
go ahead. Sorry, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
but what that means, so when we talk about carbon negativity, basically, as a tree grows, it stores carbon from the environment, and it embodies that carbon. So throughout its life cycle, it's absorbing carbon from the environment. When we harvest those trees to make our products, that carbon is embodied in the trees, and as such, that embodied carbon is transferred to our finished products. So, in other words, our products embody carbon from the environment. Now, of course, any manufacturing process is going to have some carbon impact. So, through the harvesting of the raw materials to actually making the products to shipping them off to our customers. And what carbon negativity means is simply that the amount of carbon that we offset, that we embody, is greater than the amount of carbon that is required for us to um, both produce the product, transport the product, really every step of the product's lifestyle from cradle to grave, from planting the seed in the ground until that product finishes its life cycle, and is ultimately disposed of.
And that's a really good point because when you think about building, so many of us understand, we've heard terms such as net zero, right? You're building a home that's energy efficient. You're essentially producing as much energy as you're consuming. So you're hitting that net zero, and it could be a daily net zero, it could be a yearly net zero, but regardless, climate has a role in that, depending on what part of the country. If you're in Canada as opposed to Phoenix, that may be a little bit different. But what's interesting, that carbon footprint, when you think about manufacturers, and this is something we're doing, Mark La Liberte's house, we talked a lot about is, okay, well, can we source local, right? If I'm getting stone from here in Phoenix, just north of us, as opposed to maybe bringing it over from Europe, there's a big difference in the freight and the logistics to do
Sure.
that, and that plays a role. So essentially, what you're walking us through, Casey, when you talk about the carbon negativity, the harvesting is important. You mentioned shipping and transport and the manufacturing aspect. So all
Sure.
those play a role in, just the energy needed to make the product, get it to us so that I can use it and put it up.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're all a critical component of the process. And I think, to be good stewards of the environment, I think through every step of the process, you really need to have an eye to what are the best sustainability practices for this particular step. So for us as manufacturers, that, it all starts from the raw materials that we source. So 100% of the wood that we source is sustainably sourced. Through the manufacturing process, we use over 99% of the wood fiber that we harvest, and up to 80% of the thermal energy that we use for our manufacturing locations comes from renewable energy in the source of those wood residuals that we harvest. So that's, the sourcing piece of it, the manufacturing piece of it. But there's also, once our products are actually products, once they exist in the market, uh, each of our products contribute to sustainability in a very unique way. They can all achieve sustainability performance through a variety of diverse mechanisms. And just to give a couple of examples there, our flame block fire rated sheathing. It's a fire resistant sheathing, which means that it can help slow the spread of flames. So if there's a fire nearby, it could mean that potentially your house doesn't burn down, or maybe if the fire starts in your house, it could mean that your neighbor's house doesn't burn down. And therefore, if fewer structures are burning, that's less material that's required to go rebuild and create new structures. So from a material standpoint, it's less taxing on the environment. There's our Tech Shield radiant barrier sheathing, which that's a product that you've used before, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
Tech Shield can reduce up to 97% of the sun's radiant heat from ever entering into the attic, which can keep attics up to 30 degrees cooler. And that, of course, goes a really long way in keeping the upper floors of a home, or any floor of the home that really makes contact or borders with the attic space, of keeping it cooler and making sure that the home's energy system doesn't have to work as hard to keep the home cool. So that has major implications for energy efficiency. Another one, just to cite a third example, our smart side siding. So this is not part of our structural solutions portfolio, but on the siding side of our business, our smart side products, we know can store up to 10 times more carbon than comparable fiber cement siding products in the market. So all of these, back to your original question about, there being so many different components to sustainability, whether that's the harvesting, whether that's the manufacturing, whether that's the end use. Um, it's important for us as manufacturers to have an eye to sustainability at every step of the process. And I'm proud to say that this is something that we're very disciplined about, and something that I think that we're doing very well, and we continue to improve as time goes on.
I think you made a really important point there, Casey. I want to touch on, because we just had this LP came out. We were with one of our clients. We're building it's our Desert Island project and it was really interesting because we had the LP Weather Logic. We have Tech Shield out there, and essentially we're educating the client, because there's one aspect where I think a lot of people, include myself, you listen, okay, well, maybe I'm not in a financial position to buy an electric vehicle. Maybe I'm not in a financial position to have, to purchase some of these items. You think about, again, from like a diet perspective, like, well, if I want to eat really healthy, it's more expensive, right, to eat healthy. Like
Yep.
there's
Yep.
elements to that. But what's interesting is like the Tech Shield. I mean, you mentioned that, okay, if you're putting this in, and it can lower attic temperatures by up to 30 degrees, right? It can, that radiant heat, right? How it makes an impact there. Well, a small investment, which is pretty small to do that, right? To put in the tech shield and the benefits on the backside, that's where
Absolutely.
that investment lives way past that. And I think that's what a lot of people aren't realizing, that there is value to that, because now your home's running more efficient. And what that means at the end of the day, it's not just um, if your philosophy is like, hey, I do want to, make the world a better place and I want to be more conservative, that's amazing. Hopefully all of us are that way. But at the end of the day, we still have to pay the bills. And so
Yeah,
by
yeah,
understanding that does make an impact by using like a LP tech shield,
yes.
that's the value.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. That's the cherry on top. Can you make a positive difference? Can you be a part of sustainability? Can you be an environmental steward while at the same time protecting your pocket? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. And Tech Shield's a really great example there. You're right. You pay a little bit more for that material up front, but over the course of a lifetime of having that product in your home and keeping your home substantially, or at least your attic substantially cooler, and therefore, the neighboring areas, the areas that make contact with the attic cooler. I would argue that pretty quickly the energy savings are going to offset that initial investment that you're going to make for that raw material. And in the process, you're also being a good steward of the environment.
Yeah, I would agree. It's interesting because, especially as we look at Tech Shield, especially in my climate, I mean, it's incredible here in Phoenix. Weather Logic too, just from an efficiency of construction, right? I mean, for us now, we're installing it in lieu of just doing like a standard OSB. So we're doing full shear on our house. We're putting that in. You're sealing that. So now you have the WRB, you have the structural component, and so to your point, it's not the cost is so minimal, but the payback at the end is so much greater.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let me ask you this and from your understanding, Casey, when you look at just the ratings, right? As you're getting evaluating the carbon footprint, the negative carbon, are these studies that are done in house? Are these third party? How are you? Because I would imagine it's not like super straightforward. I mean, this is a complicated study and understanding, okay,
Yes.
all the amount of energy that's going into harvesting to producing and then supplying,
Yes.
there's a lot of components, so how does, walk us through maybe a little bit of the background of, how those studies are done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And so we had a third party organization kind of organize the data for us and conduct the study for us. And it's really important for us to be objective in this process. So we wanted to make sure that that was coming from a third party. And then outside of actually organizing the data and assembling the studies and assembling the results are reviewed by a third party organization. In our case, that organization is ASTM International. And ASTM International is kind of the standard leader in this space, but they conduct these assessments across a variety of industries, across a variety of companies. And again, the importance there is the objectivity to have an outside agency kind of certifying the results and declaring that the process is consistent with how the process should be, that we're incorporating all the right data and so forth. So it is a very extensive process. It took us well over a year to assemble all the data and organize it into the reports and do multiple different rounds of reviews and really checking the data multiple times for accuracy and working with these outside organizations. But the background there is really, these new EPDs, I should say, are specific to our structural solutions business. And the background there is that our structural solutions business, we've always viewed sustainability as an important component of our mission to build a better world. And historically in our business, we've achieved that through the lens of resiliency. If we offer more resilient products, we can create structures that can better withstand or have at least better odds of withstanding adverse climate events, and therefore, if a structure is still standing and it can weather the storm, so to speak, that's less material that's needed to potentially rebuild, which obviously lends to sustainability. But also through the lens of resilience, that requires us to have a keen awareness and to be really in tune to what's going on with the environment. Because to develop resilient solutions that can help tackle a lot of the environmental challenges that we're facing, we have to really know what those challenges are. So as part of that, the environment has always been kind of front and center what we do. So it's a natural translation that sustainability would be bolstered as a focus point for us. And through the background of assembling these reports, we kind of decided, we're hearing more and more in the industry about how important sustainability is, both to builders and to homeowners. And we want to get ahead of this thing. We don't want to be behind it. We don't want to be just responding to it. We want to be leaders in this space. So we kind of set a stake in the ground and declare that we're going to go through this process to work with these outside organizations to assemble these reports and ultimately get that objective carbon negativity rating.
I love that. And to your point, I mean, there's value in being the trailblazer, right? Because by doing that, that sets you apart, right? That's what brings builders such as myself, why we're so aligned with your brand. As you look at, you mentioned this earlier, that with, the LP solutions framework, you have resiliency, you talked about labor and the business aesthetics, the sustainability. Any of those sticking out to you personally, or maybe feedback from the partners such as me, when you think about resiliency or the structural component? I mean, what are some of the biggest, most important value adds, I guess, of those?
Yeah, I would say each of the pillars has very unique and very profound value, both for homeowners and builders. Each of these solutions pillars, while they do have unique value, I would say in a lot of cases they work really well together, or in some areas they enhance each other. And I think the example I just shared around resiliency is a good example there. Creating more resilient solutions that can weather the storm, so to speak, obviously lends to sustainability, because if structures aren't being damaged, they don't have to be repaired or rebuilt, which lends to sustainability. So they certainly interact with each other, but on an individual basis, resiliency solutions, that really refers to creating solutions that are fortified either through enhanced overlays or enhanced formulations, additional strength, additional stiffness, to really be better positioned to face a lot of these adverse climate events that we're experiencing. From an efficiency standpoint, this really refers to developing solutions that can either reduce overall materials from an assembly, that can speed up time, make a builder's job quicker on the job site, or that can even cut out steps from a process altogether. And a good example there is our WeatherLogic air and water barrier. By using the WeatherLogic air and water barrier system, you're able to completely cut out the house wrap step of the process on the walls, or in most cases, the roofing felt paper step on the roof. Then we have our aesthetic solutions, and this refers primarily to our siding side of the business, our smart side and expert finish products. So having products that create massive curb appeal that homeowners can be really proud of, that come in a variety of different colors to suit a variety of different taste preferences. And then lastly, we have our business solutions, and business solutions really refers to tools and trainings and resources that we can provide to our customers to help ensure that they're successful, to help ensure that they have the right tools in their toolkit to go out and make a difference with our solutions.
So now, from my understanding, I think around the last time we were on in November that we had you on, that's when the report comes out, right? For the or the LP probably published their sustainability report around that time. Is that something that, from a manufacturer perspective, is this like a yearly, um, analysis that you have to track, especially, to make sure that you're carbon negative?
Yeah, so the sustainability report, we kind of made a commitment here that we're going to start releasing the sustainability report on an annual basis. By the time this episode airs, the report will have been out for a couple of weeks. So I strongly encourage everyone to go to our website and check out that report. But the sustainability report, it's a really critical body of work for us, and it really showcases our commitment to sustainability. What the report does is it kind of highlights really key areas where we've made progress against sustainability. And it keeps us accountable to continuing to push our sustainability efforts forward and continuing to do more and more. But it's a really outstanding body of work. I'm obviously a little biased being the brand manager for our structural solutions products, but personally, I'm most proud of this year. I think it's an amazing body of work to have all of our structural solutions, carbon negativity included as part of this body of work. But we've gotten really tremendous feedback from this body of work, and I think it's something that we're only going to continue to ramp up as time goes on. But it is a really great body of work. So as I said, I strongly encourage everyone to go to our website and check it out.
Now, for me, I'm really familiar with, the flame block I've used, Weather Logic. We talked about Tech Shield as well, LP Tech Shield. The LP Smart Side trim and siding, I know from my understanding, that's one of the only carbon negative products as well. Application, walk through maybe the Smart Side a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a little bit less polished on my smart side selling points, just being on
We,
the structural side of our business. But it's a terrific product. It's going back to our solutions pillars. Anytime you can check off multiple of those pillars at once with our smart side products. So obviously the aesthetic pillar, having siding solutions that are beautiful, that have curb appeal, that come in a variety of different colors for our expert finish siding. There's also our efficiency. Our expert finish siding installs up to 30% faster through outside independent studies than some comparable fiber cement siding products. Um, and then obviously there's the sustainability piece as well. So embodying up to 10 times more carbon than competitive fiber cement siding products. So all of these things, I think, another great example of how our solutions can dip in a variety of these different buckets to kind of work together.
well, in the past, I've had the opportunity. I was in California, touring some of the forest there, and some of the raw material, right, that all of us use, from windows to framing materials to everything that we're using as builders. And one of the terms I had heard at the time, they had talked about the SFI, which I'm like, I don't even know what that is. What's SFI? They said, it's a Sustainable Forestry Initiative. Really, it's talking about us, as we consume these raw materials, right? What's the plan in place? How they harvest the raw wood, how they use it, how they plant. I know that's a big part with LP as well, just in the products you're using, just to make sure that I would imagine who's supplying you, who you're purchasing from, that they're in line with your brand as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, these outside agencies and these outside certifications, they're really important. I think, we live in an era where I think there's, a lot of misinformation, or information can be interpreted incorrectly pretty quickly. So having objectivity, having these outside agencies who can kind of certify processes and practices and the materials that are used is really important. So I would encourage anyone listening to this, whether you're in the industry or outside of the industry, to really look towards some of these certifications from these outside agencies. There's a really robust series of standards that have to be met to meet a lot of these certifications. So they're great programs that certainly create a lot of accountability.
Yeah, and I think to your point, because I know that you're purchasing from Canada, right? And well, some of it, and of course they're in line with the ethos and everything that we've been speaking of on this conversation.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, what are you most excited about right now as you look at just all these changes that LP's doing? I know you've introduced some incredible products to the market that I'm using and other builders are using. Based on your role and what you're over, Casey, like what excites you?
Yeah, I think I mean I absolutely love the work that we're doing right now, and I think it's a privilege to be a part of an organization that I think is genuinely making a difference in the world and that's making people's lives better, whether that's builders or homeowners. But so I'm really thrilled with exactly where we're at as a business right now and our exact offering right now. But I get really excited looking to the future. It's being in this role and really all the commercial functions within our OSB business and our structural solutions business. Our success is really predicated on our ability to listen to our customers, to understand pain points, to understand challenges really well. And I love talking to people. I love getting out and meeting with builders and hearing about what's going on in their worlds, and ultimately working as a business to translate that into new solutions, to translate that into new innovations, which we can bring to market. And that's a really exciting process. I think we have a team that's specifically dedicated towards growth and innovation. But in my role as brand manager, obviously, once we create these new innovations and once they're in market, it's part of my job to tell the story about why these innovations are so important and why they can make a big difference. And invariably, they do, because again, listening to our customers is front and center as part of the process. So we don't develop solutions unless there's a very acute and well-defined need from our partners in the industry. So watching those needs being translated into solutions and then finding new ways to meet these pain points is a really exciting and really gratifying process.
How's the I know for a window there for all of us as through COVID with supply chain, um, the building that was out of control. I'll just say that because like everybody was remodeling and building and not
Yeah.
traveling. How's that look now with supply chain? I'm not honestly quite sure because to be honest, for me from LP, we've never had an issue. From the product we need, like it's always been readily available.
Yep.
Um, has that always been the case with LP throughout COVID, and then now how's supply chain looking?
So COVID certainly presented its challenges, I think, across the board in the industry. It was just such unprecedented rates of demand. And we were very proactive about managing it from the supply perspective. And I think for the most part, we were able to pretty effectively kind of mitigate some of the potential more serious disruptions. That's not to say that we didn't have some challenges and that in some cases some things were slowed, but overall, I think we did a very good job of managing it. Where we're at today, I think the industry as a whole is in a much better place. I think that's partially because, from a demand perspective, things have slowed down a little bit. But also, I think, the industry has learned and we've figured out best practices to put into place and how to really get ahead of, some of the challenges that we were seeing last time around through COVID.
It's really good. Yeah, it seems. I would say just in general, I know LP's been great for us. I look at a lot of our other manufacturers, and it's definitely gotten better. It's interesting because, and maybe this is maybe a little market analysis from what you're seeing as a brand manager there, Casey. But as I network with other builders and designers and architects around the country, uh, everyone's still been busy, despite where interest rates were. There was a lot of concern end of last year, but people are still building. There's still a need, there's still housing need. You mentioned, we've talked about this a little bit on the conversation here, but one of the benefits, not just the carbon negativity, but the products are more resilient. They're better. I look at the homes we're building now, especially in the Phoenix area. Homes built today are so much better than homes we were building 30, 40 years ago. Arizona's not
Yeah.
really probably the best um, data point for like how homes should have been built, many years ago, because they weren't built very great in the 80s, 90s, 2000s stuff. But it's changing now. Like they're a lot better now. So
And
go ahead.
if you don't mind me asking, Brad, why do you think that is?
Well, you know, I'll give one simple answer to this. So, Arizona was, it's been dominated by national builder. Nothing against national builders, but there were a lot. Arizona's economy, especially when I moved here, everyone was in construction and real estate. We didn't have a lot of other industries, so when the recession hit, it really hit our market hard. That's changed over the last 15 years. But I think more importantly, to answer your question specifically, I early in my career when I started AFT, we were remodeling homes, and years ago, just windows, for example, the framer would install the window package, and they didn't flash them. So I'm like in Arizona, they're getting away with this because they're in Arizona. It's a dry climate, but they're not really getting away with it because you open up the wall and there's like mold everywhere, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
OSB's rotted, the wood's rotted, and
yeah,
so I saw where that's totally different now. Where now we have the window manufacturers, most of them are installing their windows, right? So they're making sure that it's full turnkey, it's all under the same umbrella. Or we have a third party that's highly trained and understands how to flash a window. So something as simple as that, right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
look at how insulation was installed, some of the bad insulation. So a lot of it was just pretty careless. It was, inexpensive building, inexpensive construction, in those years. Whereas now there's a lot more care and understanding that, hey, we may be in a dry climate, but we still have to install a WRB. So many of these older homes too, going back to specifics of just windows, you look at stucco, they're putting black paper up and then just lath and going, and these are
yeah,
rotting out as well. They're not doing WRB. And so
yep,
now we're doing these things. I know us as a builder, we're especially putting like a stego mat underneath the foundation slab, which very few builders are doing again still. So it's just some of those key elements that, hey, we're trying to keep,
sure.
protect these homes. So hopefully that
And
answers that question.
yeah, no, it does. Thank you. And one follow-up question there. Is any of the push, do you feel, either coming from a code perspective or from the manufacturer's perspective, providing better tools and better education? I know kind of two distinct questions there, but curious.
That's a really good question. Code's interesting because I think that is important to some extent, only because some builders just, I mean, for lack of a better word, they don't care.
Yeah,
And maybe they do care, but it's just a lot of us understand, they care about calling the sub, making sure the trade partner's there, they're doing their, work, but maybe they're not inspecting it, they're not looking, they're essentially just trying to hit their schedule and go.
yeah,
And so the code protects the client, if you will, from just that mentality. But I think more importantly, to your side, the manufacturer, I feel that there's so much more training and education. The podcast for me has been huge, but as I go to these events, as our teams train and we bring in some skilled people with our company, I find that the manufacturers are really educating us. That's been my experience with LP specifically, is that I'm educated on the product and how it's installed. And, Neil has come out on site multiple times with our team. And so from our side, and especially as we're building for some savvy clients, Mark La Liberté was instructive, as we were doing his house. And so for me, I feel that all of our vendors are taking more pride. Same thing with our window companies, that they're teaching us how to flash, do it properly so don't have leaks. And so I think that's having a bigger driver, is the education from our vendors and suppliers, as opposed to just code regulation.
that's great. That's music to my ears. I mean, even outside of us, it's just, I think as a whole, the more information that manufacturers are providing, the better off the industry as a whole is, and that's really exciting to hear.
From your side, Casey, and maybe I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you're to build your house, today, when you think of the LP products, like a must that you'd install, like why would you put it in? What's the reasoning behind it? And for sure, why it'd be a staple in your own personal house?
Yeah. Oh man, really good question. I I think so. on the structural side of the business, really, there's three applications that our products are relevant in, and that's roof sheathing, subflooring, and wall sheathing. And then, of course, on the siding side of the business, we're relevant in the exterior component, which is the siding, the cladding. So I think, I've outside of my professional capacities at LP, I've had multiple friends build homes over the last couple of years, and they've asked me this question. And like, hey, Casey, take your corporate hat off. Really, what products? And consistently, I mean, my answer is the same across the board. I really do believe that we offer some of the best products in the market. So, what that looks like for me, I think I would absolutely pick a wall sheathing, a roof sheathing, and a subflooring from our structural solutions portfolio, plus our smart side. For roof sheathing, it's a no-brainer for me. Tech Shield, um, especially living in Nashville, we get very hot summers, and it's always a challenge to stay cool. So that's a no-brainer. From a wall sheathing perspective, I think personally, I'm drawn to WeatherLogic, and part of that is bias. I used to manage that product line, so I have a very intimate understanding of the benefits of that system and how much of a difference it can make. But
And
you
if I
know,
interrupt you, I love it. The weather logic's awesome because for me it's 2-in-1, right? I mean,
yeah,
and now with the sealant you have, again, the tape's phenomenal, but like the sealant, which is my experience has been, it's really easy to instruct or teach someone how to install it and apply it right
yeah,
properly, and the coverage is incredible, and then it really helps us to like just prevent any potential water leaks. So it's
that's
a one-stop shop, which is nice.
I love hearing that. Yeah, anytime we can create a great product for both the builder and the homeowner, that's perfection for me. And I think WeatherLogic accomplishes that. So, in addition to having the built-in integrated air and water barrier, the seams of the system, as you just mentioned, are sealed up, whether through a liquid sealant or through tape. But what that means is that it can create a tighter home. So there's less areas where air can kind of seep in or out, which can create a tighter home, which obviously leads to greater energy efficiency. So I think WeatherLogic would be my wall sheathing choice. And then, for subflooring, we have two great options: our Legacy premium subflooring and our top-notch 350 durable subflooring. Um, I think they're both really fantastic products. I think the way I think about the difference between them is Legacy is for really heavy duty, areas of the home where there might be a lot of weight, um, areas that are particularly susceptible to moisture, which in Nashville, that's definitely the case for us. We get more average annual rainfall than Seattle. Um, so I think, for me, I'd probably choose Legacy for the subfloor, or at least use Legacy in the areas of the home they're going to have a little bit more weight. Maybe under a kitchen counter or under some of the kitchen appliances and so forth. And then, of course, I think I would go with our Expert Finish siding. Our pre-finished siding comes in a variety of different colors, so it's some really beautiful options there. And the structural components make for a really well built, resilient home, sustainable home. And our smart side also makes for a sustainable home, a resilient home. But with the smart side and expert finish, obviously there's the aesthetics there, the beauty there as well. So a home that I'd be excited to look at from the outside and be proud to call home.
So I want to touch maybe on the top notch and the legacy a little bit. Depending on climate, because we all understand the frame of house, right? It takes time. Framers are out there. Weather. If you're in a climate, maybe in Oregon, where it's raining and the wood's exposed for a long time, is one of those better than the other, especially if they're exposed to the elements? Maybe in the summer here, exposed to the sun for a while, exposed to rain. How does that play a role between the two different options there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say they both have enhanced properties to kind of help um, combat some of the moisture challenges that they'll face. In Top Notch 350, I think one of the really cool features is it has a rain notch system, um, and those notches can kind of help drain water from the Top Notch 350 panels. So if any water accumulates on top of the panels, it can just flow right out. With with Legacy, the the product has it's built with Gorilla Glue technology, so it has enhanced moisture resistance properties, and we had added resins as well, added waxes that really make it um, a really formidable product against combating moisture concerns. We have some. I'm not recommending that anyone do this, but there's a variety of videos you can find online of people submerging our legacy subflooring into water for days or weeks at a time and pulling it out and kind of comparing it to unsubmerged product. And it's pretty remarkable how well the product holds up against those moisture challenges. So I would say it's a little nuanced. It just depends. If you're in an area where you're going to get quick blasts of rain and they might accumulate on top of the panels, but then pretty quickly it's going to stop, and you can use the notch system to have that water drain out. I think Top Notch is a great solution if you're in an area where there's just kind of persistent, steady rain and moisture is a constant challenge. I think Legacy is a great solution.
It's amazing. And as you look at some of the products, I mean, one thing that we didn't touch upon were, VOC. Any concerns there? How's that being tracked in addition to just the carbon negativity?
Yeah, so that is an important consideration for us, and I think a good example there, something that I'm excited about on the VOC front is our Legacy premium subflooring adhesive. So this is a pretty new product for us, but it can be used with both Legacy and Top Notch 350 to create a stronger, sturdier subflooring system. And that product is VOC free, or VOC compliant. It's also solvent free. So again, a really terrific product when you think about some of those environmental challenges that those volatile organic compounds can pose.
I was like, I said VLC, and I think most people have heard that, but again, volatile organic compound, I think that's really
That's right.
important. And really, essentially, that's the off gassing, it's the chemicals, things we breathe and smell, like in our, and especially as homes are tight, we want to make sure we're monitoring the VLCs in the home and the off gassing. And, because that leads, again, another component of, these healthy lifestyles we're trying to achieve.
That's right. Yep.
So, for you personally, Casey, I don't think I asked you this last time. What's the best advice you've been given?
Oh man. I think the most relevant advice that I've been given to what we do, um, I think we as marketers have a tendency to be really excited about specific concepts or specific ideas. And we need to step back and constantly remember that it's not about what we're excited about. Our job is to listen to our customers and to really understand what their needs are. So I think it's instilled, at least in me, this relentless focus on really listening and really understanding the specific needs and nuances at a very detailed level of our customers. And I think that if we're able to do that, we're more effective at communicating to our customers. We're more effective at developing solutions that meet their needs, and ultimately that helps ensure both of our mutual success.
I love it. Yeah, listening is definitely underrated, right? That's a good quality, especially from your side as a manufacturer, right?
That's right. Yep.
Listen to us annoying builders, chirping at you all the time. So, any exciting trips coming up in addition to Patagonia you did last year?
Nothing on the radar currently. I'm looking at the calendar, realized that I haven't taken a ton of time off this year, so I'll probably try to carve something out in the final months of the year here, but don't know if it'll be as fancy or as exciting as Patagonia. But I did just do a long weekend trip with a couple of friends, kind of a reunion trip in the Colorado mountains. So we did a 3-day hiking trip there, which was really spectacular. Pretty grueling. It's 30 miles through the mountains. You're carrying 40-pound backpacks on your back the whole time.
Wow.
But really just unbelievable scenery. So that was quite special.
Well, that's amazing. Well, outside of some of the exciting news today, it's teaching us about carbon negativity, and everything LP's doing, what's upcoming and exciting for
Well,
LP?
I think I would encourage everyone to stay tuned to our growth and innovation efforts. We've got some exciting new products that are going to be coming out in the future. I would encourage everyone to come if you're listening to this and you're going to be at the IBS show this winter. Please stop by our booth. I'll be there. Would love to talk to you and would love to show you some of the exciting stuff that we have going on in person.
That's awesome. Well, Casey, where can we find you and learn more about the LP products?
Yeah, so check us out on LP Pros on Instagram. I would encourage everyone also to we're active on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm personally reachable on LinkedIn as well. It's Casey Smyth, Smith with a Y. Would love to hear from you. And also check out our sustainability report. Being recently released, it contains a lot of really great information, and it's just an incredible body of work, and I'm really proud of it. So definitely check that out.
Well, Casey, you've been amazing. Can't thank you enough, and appreciate you.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate the time.
If you get value from the show, please support us by giving a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you listen to. And I also have a favor to ask. We've had some incredible guests that come on and share their wisdom, their knowledge about their business. So if you have friends or family members that could benefit from those episodes, please share it with them, as well as any other business owners that you're networking with that could get value from the podcast or certain episodes. Please share those as well. Again, subscribe, make sure you're following. Any questions that you have, topics. We've had listeners reach out about certain guests that we should have on the show. Again, brad.l@aftconstruction.com. Email me for topics to address, guests that we should have on, and even if you think you'd be a great guest for the show. So again, thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next time.